Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, gratefully recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with anybody you think might get something out of it. Other than that, how is everybody going today, guys? I'm feeling better today. After I made my video last night, I had a nice hot shower, made dinner, and I went to bed. I think I went to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock last night. I was exhausted, and as a matter of fact, I woke up really sore still today. Um, Paying attention to my body helps me because then, I was able to get up this morning, go right back to work. I had a really good day today. Yeah, it was a great day, guys. Life is so different for me today. It's amazing. The gifts that I received in recovery were not promised to me, right? And it's funny, the only thing I was looking for coming into recovery was to shed the drugs. I thought I could go back to living the same life I was living, and that would be okay. And I'm so fortunate, so grateful that God, first of all, that I align myself with my higher power, God, and then God has delivered so many gifts. And here's the thing, guys: these gifts are not promised in recovery, but they're a benefit and a result of working a recovery program to the best of your ability. And whatever your path's going to be, I can't speak on that. But I have seen 100% straight across the board. Anybody that works for a strong recovery program starts doing the work day in and day out. It may take a few months to get the ball rolling, but in and of itself, it always happens. They start living much better lives, and it's a lot more than just putting the drugs down. That's what we're going to talk about today, guys. There's one promise, many gifts. One promise, many gifts. Recovery offers only one promise: the freedom from active addiction. Imagine how it might be if we arrived at the door of our first recovery meeting, desperate, wanting to get clean, only to be met by a sales pitch. If you work the steps and don't use drugs, you'll get married, live in the suburbs, have 2.6 kids, start wearing polyester. You'll become a responsible, productive member of society and be fit company for kings or presidents. You'll be rich and have a dynamic career. Most of us, greeted with such a heavy-handed spiel, would have laughed and bolted for the door. God knows I would have. Well, instead of high-pressure nonsense and frightening predictions, we are greeted with a promise of hope, freedom from active addiction. We feel a blessed relief come over us when we hear that we never have to use drugs again. We are not going to be forced to become anything or anybody. Of course, after some time in recovery, good things start happening in our lives. We are given gifts, spiritual gifts, material gifts, gifts that we always dreamed of but never hoped to receive. These, however, are truly gifts. They're exactly that, gifts. They are not promised to us just because we seek recovery. All we are promised is freedom from active addiction, and that is more than enough. The gifts come from our higher power, and are personal to each member. And the affirmation is, just for today, I have been promised freedom from active addiction. The gifts I receive as a benefit are not promised, but come from a conscious contact with my loving God. And I like that reading, guys. And it's funny when I look back now and realize that I was in such despair, and that the greatest hope of my life, and I talked about this before, was just getting through a day without having to use drugs. And then furthermore, somebody that had seen potential in me had made me think that maybe I could get my old job back. Not the one that I was working currently, but the one I had had prior to that, which was a really good job. I loved it a lot, but it was a lot of work. And again, it would have been a good job to get back. I'm so far beyond that today, guys. That job no longer exists, and although I still do most of the work, but now that company is now one of my clients, one of 40 or 50 just such clients. So instead of making the money I would make from working that job, I invoice that job as needed, and I have a million, so many other customers that also pay me. So I'm making like 500 times more than the good money I was making at that job. And again, benefit of recovery, benefit of working this program and fixing, but again, not a benefit of seeking dollars, a benefit of seeking to be the best version of me. And that's the thing, guys. First of all, I'd learned to live on nothing. The last few years of my run, I weren't paying any bills. I either had found Yeah, I just was leave it at that. I wasn't paying any bills. I wasn't doing anything responsible with any of the money I made. Fortunately, for once in my life, it wasn't like the prior recovery I had. That was my big goal because I'd just come off of being homeless and I hadn't had a dollar to my name in years. I sought material gain. I sought just to make money, and I, thought as long as I was making money, I was doing okay. I didn't have to work a program because I'd gotten this job. I'm good to go. And then lo and behold, within weeks, I was relapsing and back on drugs for the next, 8.5 years, 9 years, whatever it was. Which literally this time around, it rocked me. Just again, it's funny. When I look back, my rock bottom this time, though, was so much deeper and more mentally and spiritually affecting me. Physically, I still had an apartment, though I was being evicted. I still had a job. Like I didn't have to have court cases. I wasn't in any trouble with the police. Like I didn't have anything hanging over my head. And for once in my life, that's where I knew I was on the right track because it was literally just a desire to do better before I burned my life completely to the ground and ended up back in a place that I couldn't come back from, that I decided I needed help. And I understood from day one that the help I needed was a lot deeper than just the drugs. But I knew that was where I had to start. And again, once I started praying, I was literally, guys, I was starting to think I was losing my mind at one point because the more I prayed, the more I received these messages, both subconsciously, direct downloads, and literally just showing up, videos would pop up on my YouTube screen that would just shed that which didn't serve you, just all this stuff. And I knew immediately what it was. I had to get out from under the grip of addiction. I couldn't make any choices at that point. I was completely and utterly owned by a drug that I absolutely hated. And literally because I was praying and asking God to help so much that he manifested miracles within me. Guys, I was laying here at night with a big pile of drugs, not going to bed, trying to get a high all night and could not feel it, could not feel high, couldn't get myself medicated to the point where I couldn't hear the overwhelming desire to get clean from within my head. Again, the only way God could get through to me without having to make me go through what I normally go through would be getting arrested, taking it out of my hand. God led me to a rehab this time of my own volition within reason. I was going to try the other way, and again, I almost died here trying to detox at home. But at least at that point, I showed him my commitment by laying down and stopping using drugs. God started rewarding me, right? But the initial and again, I got into program and I started working recovery program because with all the soul searching and all the stuff I was doing in rehab and all the meditating and praying, and I came back and I wasn't fully bought in to living the life that I am today. I was, first come home, I was going to go back to my old job and go back to living my old life and just try to do it sober. It would have never worked, and God knew that. So God put a series of events in my life. First and foremost being, as soon as I got home, I relapsed within hours because I found a rock of crack on my table and I smoked it. That absolutely leveled me. It broke my heart because I honestly did not intend to do it. But I was entertaining a thought in the back of my mind. Well, if I stay off the heroin, maybe I can still party on the weekends with a little bit of crack. And that's the insanity of the disease trying to weasel its way back in, because I've never met a social crack smoker in my life, and I've met many of them, self included. So again, the second I made that mistake, boom, I met him halfway because I dropped to my knees and I prayed and I said, God, what did I just do? Please forgive me. Please help me. You've gotten me this far. Don't let me go backwards. So an instant download popped in my head. Get out of the house. Again, I talk about this so often. I went across the street, found a girl who was locked out of her car, helped her out. I was in service, right? I did something to serve somebody else. And the big overwhelming thing was, the second I was done with that, I was okay with coming home and finishing cleaning up because I felt good about myself. But for once in my life, I stopped and I thought about that. Well, what just changed here? I was so freaking out. I knew why, obviously, because I relapsed. But I get home and realized, I'm like, no, I can't sit here at my apartment, in this despair-filled hovel that I was living in. I need to start getting out and being of service. I need to start working a recovery program. It came to me just that quickly. So again, the next day I went and found my home group that I now get the honor of chairing that meeting. I'm plugged in with these people. I talk to multiple people from my recovery network every single day, and on some days 30 and 40 people. It's beautiful. I've got this whole beautiful community around me. And again, the honesty of that was right. As I got to my meeting and I started speaking on it openly, I didn't have any thought of this coming out. But as I sat here for a couple of days, I'm like, I was terrified. And that job I was looking forward to going back to, not the one I was going to get back, but the one I still had, because I was capable of making decent money. But once I started working a spiritual program and listening to the principles, listening to other people speak in a meeting, the download hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't go back to that job, but I had made a commitment, so I honored the commitment. I went back to work, and again, within 2 hours of getting back, my boss pulled up at the Coke dealer's house with me in the truck, and I'm like, okay, well, there you go. I honored my commitment. This is what you're gonna do with me. This is, how serious you're gonna take this for me. I can't be here. I knew I couldn't be here. God was pounding me with the downloads. But again, at that point, guys, I still had very low self-esteem, was afraid of confrontation. It was very difficult for me to make decisions for myself, as sad as that sounds. But again, I did so because I didn't do it on the spot that day. I wrote out the rest of the week and I just kept praying. And literally, guys, I'd be in the middle of a job and I'd run up to the truck to grab another tool. I'd stop and say a quick prayer. God, get me through this day, please. I kept myself plugged in, kept myself thinking of what I needed to, right? And by the end of that week, he had pulled enough stunts that were just so overwhelmingly disrespectful. The last one being, my friend Doug was letting me use the pickup truck to go to meetings, go to my doctor's appointments. And the boss is like, oh, I need to send you on an errand. Can you go grab the other truck? And I'm like, of course, no problem, right? Because Doug will allow that. But I pull up in the job site, and he starts piling all his tools and stock and the rest of the crew in my truck. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, well, we're going to have you drive this truck today. Doug's letting you use it. I'm like, this guy just has no sense of what's right and wrong. And he'll just take advantage of anybody. And it pissed me off because it put me in that position knowing full well he don't care. He's just another... another ease out for him, that it angered me enough. And during the course of that day, come lunchtime, I'm like, you know what? I got on the phone, made a couple phone calls, come back, I said, Frank, I gotta give you my 2-week notice. And what do you mean? Well, I gotta go back and fulfill the program. I'm not ready to be out here doing this, and I'm gonna choose myself first. And I did it that minute because he knew I was pissed off about the truck. I wanted him to understand you can only push people so far. And he was blown away. Couldn't believe it. What are you gonna do for money? I've been living with no money for years. I'll figure something out. And I did. I gave my notice and I quit my job. And again, the next two later, Doug called and I told him. And Doug, I owed Doug like $12,000 in back rent at that point. And I let him know I was getting signed up for Raft, which can help with the rent. And I came clean. And I'm like, Doug, I got something to tell you. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I know you just wanted me to get back to work and get you paid off. And that is my intention. It's my highest priority, and I'm going to. But I want you to know I can't work with him. Like, I was honest. I'm like, the guy's doing coke and drinking all day. I can't be around that when I'm trying to get sober. He lies, cheats, steals, making me lie and cheat. And I can't do it. And I was afraid Doug was going to take the pickup truck away because I'm like, I'm going to start working myself. I can't do that in your truck unless you're at least aware of it. And lo and behold, he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. Good for you. You're better than them. You deserve better. That is a bad place for you. Use the truck. If I come home, I'll rent the vehicle. You're going to need that to start work. I'll call everybody I know, let them know you're available. And within like 2 or 3 weeks, I had enough work that I registered my business and I started my business, and it's just grown. But again, none of these things would have happened if I wasn't staying sober, working my program, talking to my God, understanding that I needed to make a lot more changes than just putting down the drugs. But again, rehab and my recovery program, that's what they promised me. I would put down the drugs, and if I worked the steps, I would start living a better life, right? But that's not what promised is. And you got to understand, the point of this being, I know it's almost contradictory the way I'm saying, but it's not. What I'm saying is, you come into recovery, and we promise you, well, if you keep coming, you'll put down the drugs. If you then start working the program, the benefit of working the recovery program is all the gifts that come with starting to live a better life. And again, I can't tell you what those gifts are going to be for you because it's going to depend on your situation, your relationship with your higher power, the level you're willing to put into it. But I promise you this, and this is what I've seen across the board enough that I'm confident enough saying promise, the deeper you dive in, the more internal work you do, the more areas of your life that you apply these principles to, the bigger the rewards are going to be and the better your life is going to get. Guys, I can honestly say that as somebody that never believed for a second after just making these mistakes over and over again for so many years that anything I did was ever going to work. But I'm a fighter, and I can't give up, and I don't have anybody to support me. So and again, I've talked about it, I'm not a good criminal. I get caught. So I had to keep trying and work, and then lo and behold, the minute I started praying, started building a relationship, started looking at my actions and then changing them, making amends, having the courage of my conviction to literally stop mid-sentence and say, whoa, no, that was the old me. That's what I used to do. I can't do that anymore. And it can be very uncomfortable because people are used to getting certain things out of me, and I had to finally say no. It was a lot of and guys, I had to let go of a lot. Like, it was tough. Not everybody's willing to literally just let go of everybody in their life. And unfortunately, or fortunately for this situation, anybody that wanted anything good for me, I had already abandoned because I couldn't let them watch me do what I was doing. And my whole world was just filled with people taking. So that was a big thing for me. I had to look at my behaviors, talk to my counselors, and look at my patterns and say, well, I don't make any decisions based on myself. Clearly, I'm afraid of confrontation because I always had that monkey on my back, and I needed everybody to want to help me out, even though they know I was doing wrong. I had to say no. This has got to stop. So then people are so used to taking advantage of me. I had to learn to say no. People would call up and I'd just say, nope, not available. And, well, what are you doing? Doesn't matter. I'm doing recovery. That's what I'm doing. That's all I would tell anybody. And I would just walk away, right? That's what brought in gifts, because now I started getting a sense of self-worth, some self-respect. I started understanding that I deserve good things. And in order to get good things, I got to go out and do good things. So I started going out and doing good things. And, as much as I'm like a workaholic by nature, I put my doctor's appointments first. I put my recovery meetings first. My signing on to a Friday noontime meeting, that's 1/5 of my work week right there. Because now I'm so involved. I get there an hour and a half early. I leave an hour and a half late. So it's basically 3 to 4 hours of my day, which is great. It's my favorite day of the week. I'm giving myself at least one light day a week, and I work so damn much anyway. It's okay. But I made recovery first. I made commitments that I made to my recovery coach, my recovery advisor, my doctors, my therapist, anybody in my recovery community. I made these my priority, my dentist visits, my doctors. Like, I am so amazed at somebody that could never follow through anything, that I look back in this first, just over a year now, and I made every appointment. I made every Friday meeting. I didn't miss because of holidays. I didn't miss because of this. And part of that was when I would get double booked, I would learn to reschedule, because that's not something I never did. I was so used to just blowing people off. When everybody would offer anything up, I'd just say, yeah, no problem, to get through the situation, get what I needed, knowing I had 3 other commitments at that moment. Well, that was another gift to recovery, realizing that, no, I've got to be honest with other people. I got to show other people the respect. The respect to saying, no, I can't because I have another commitment I have to take care of. Let me find a time that does work for the two of us. And that just requires mental capacity I didn't have prior. Today I do. And because of that, that's invited a whole bunch of other set of gifts. Guys, most of the gifts that I've received are how I look at myself, how I feel about myself, my ability to look at myself in the mirror, my recovery community, my tribe, the relationships that I've built. And yes, owning my business, an actual legit business that I work properly and keep proper paperwork and taxes and bank accounts, and that's amazing. Like, I'm so incredibly proud of myself. I've proven, that's the other thing, guys. I'm going to put this out and it's late in the video, and who's still watching. These are all things I couldn't do because I used to tell myself I couldn't do them. I stopped that. One of the biggest gifts I've gotten in recovery is I've learned to stop speaking to myself in a negative or detrimental manner. So now I boost myself and say, well, if I can't do it yet, I'm going to learn to do it. And then I go out and I apply myself and I practice and I study and I make attempts to do things better. And lo and behold, I consider myself, from considering myself somebody who was cursed and this and that and all these terrible things I don't even like to say anymore, I consider myself an incredibly exceptional human being that is capable of overcoming and achieving anything. And I go out and prove that on a daily basis. Each and every one of you, every one of us is capable of these things if you put your mind to it, if you start paying attention, getting introspective and correcting the internal behavior. Stop blaming everybody else regardless of what their fault and things was, because it's a waste of your energy. You're allowing them to rent space in your head for free. fix you, work on you, and then you won't allow those things to happen in your life anymore once you have the confidence of making good choices and good decisions and taking good actions in your life. Guys, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We'll see you in the next one.